Great. Hello, everyone. So good to see you all. Thank you for joining today. I am the Executive Director of SB at Home, Regina Celestin Williams, and I'm so excited to host you all for an engaging discussion around Sunnyvale's Moffett Park specific plan and provide context and opportunity for you all to get engaged before City Council adoption. Policy in Action at Home is a monthly informal brown bag discussion convening housers to engage on hot housing topics. Every month, we select a topic or current event, bring in an expert or two to give a brief presentation, and then open up the discussion to ask questions, float new ideas, and identify potential areas for shared action. So before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional, ancestral, unceded territory of the Muwekma Ohlone Ramaytush Ohlone Tamian Nation and Ama Mutsun, on which we are learning, working, and organizing today. We are committed to honoring and making visible the indigenous people and tribes that were intentionally displaced from their land, who remain here in Silicon Valley and are a part of our community. I'd also like to just go over a few ground rules before we get started. We want to ensure that the conversations and relationships here today remain respectful and productive. So please be kind and courteous to each other. Refrain from making rude comments or personal attacks. We encourage asking questions and listening as we learn and engage with each other. Please keep comments and questions focused on equity-centered solutions, and keep questions in the chat on topic. Sometimes the chat can get quite lively. If you find that it is distracting you from the content of the discussion, we encourage you to consider closing the chat temporarily. So with that, I am going to hand it off to Mathew Reed, our Director of Policy. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much, Regina. Welcome to everybody that's here. I'm seeing familiar faces. It's glad to have you here. We are really pleased today to be in partnership with Livable Sunnyvale, which is, one of the most dynamic community-based advocacy organizations in the South Bay, and has a tremendous history and has been a great partner over the years. So we're glad to have them in this space. So let me introduce you to the folks that are here. Gail Rubino has been on the Livable Sunnyvale board since the board was created. She is the co-chair of the Moffett Park Committee. Gail lives in a mobile home park and was on the resident stakeholder group that assisted in creating the mobile home memorandum of understanding in Sunnyvale that has stabilized mobile home rents in the city. She served on the city's redistricting commission that redrew the council seats to align with the 2020 US Census. Really important step in Sunnyvale. Agnes Veith has been on the Livable Sunnyvale board for 3 years. She co-chairs the Moffett Park Housing Element and Village Center committees for Livable Sunnyvale. And Agnes is also a Sunnyvale Arts Commissioner. Welcome to both of you. Kenneth, and we're going to drop a link in the website to the Livable Sunnyvale page. So feel free to take a look, but don't let it distract you from the conversation. I also want to introduce Kenneth Javier-Rosales, who is SV at Home's Planning Senior Associate. He has been with us, working super hard for just over a year, and holds multiple degrees in environmental studies, political science, and urban planning, all from San Jose State University. Prior to his time at SV at Home, Kenneth worked for the City of San Jose for 5 years in the environmental planning field, and prior to that, he worked with Sierra Club Loma Prieta chapter as a grassroots organizer for just over 2 years. He's lived in San Jose for over 16 years and is committed to his community in many meaningful ways, and now continues to channel his passion for justice through the housing movement. And we're super pleased to have him part of our team. So let me turn it over to Gail, who's gonna give a quick summary of Moffett Park's specific plan to orient you all and the discussion that we're gonna have when she's done.
Okay.
All right, Corey. Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Corey.
Yeah, can you put it on the slide view, please? Thank you. Thank you very much. Oh, that's not the first slide though. Go back one. There we go. Thank you very much. The dark green area says Moffett Park. And Moffett Park is located in the northernmost portion of the city of Sunnyvale, and it's 1,267 acres. You can see it's absolutely huge. The plan area is bounded by 237 in the south, Moffett Airport and the golf course to the west, San Francisco Bay, the Sunnyvale Smart Station, Water Pollution Control Plant, and Caribbean Drive to the north, and Caribbean Drive and the Baylands Park to the east. Moffett Park is an integral part of Sunnyvale. The plan is to develop an ecological innovation district with a diverse mix of uses that will serve as a model for resilience, climate protection, equity, and economic opportunity. Next slide, please. This is Moffett Park today. The current area is developed with approximately 18.5 million square feet of commercial, R&D, industrial, and institutional. Another approximately 4.1 million square feet of office, R&D, and industrial were recently approved by the city. Currently, it's a collection of office parks, corporate campuses, and industrial warehouses. There are no residential structures in Moffett Park. There are some hotels. The big opportunity for the city of Sunnyvale is transforming Moffett Park from a suburban office park to a place for people to live, work, and experience nature. Next slide, please. Thank you. The Moffett Park specific plan will rezone the entire area. The plan details the creation of 6 neighborhoods: West Matilda, Discovery, North and South Java, Crossman, and Chesapeake. Each one of these districts, will be a 15-minute district with access to commercial, retail, housing, and transportation. Each neighborhood will be a mix of office, R&D, residential, hospitality like hotels, and retail with access to open space, public facilities, and transportation. Next slide, please. The next few slides describe the specific plan in some detail. First, there's no housing in Moffett Park today. The plan will rezone the area and allow housing. The vision is that by 2040, there will be 20,000 new units with 15 to 20% affordable housing units. The target is 3,000 to 4,000 affordable units. The affordable housing goal will be met by the city's inclusionary housing program and the community benefits agreement program for Moffett Park. The land use. We expect 33.5 million square feet of commercial, office, industrial, R&D, and institutional. And remember, I said right now it's 18.5, I think it was. The 33.5 million square feet includes 500,000 square feet of retail. Next slide, please. Transportation. The area is served by highways 101 and 237 and light rail. A new transportation demand management agency will be created that will be tasked with meeting the transit needs of residents and employees. The area is designated as an eco-innovation district. The goal is to create Moffett Park as an area that will accommodate a diverse profile of businesses that include larger, well-established anchor companies, balanced by a number of smaller businesses and startups. Moffett Park businesses will include technology, life science research, and information services. The idea is to create a collaborative environment that encourages a culture of knowledge sharing and innovative thinking. Moffett Park's district will be social, facilitating engagement and interaction in comfortable spaces for work, life, leisure, and recreation. Other cities with Eco Innovations districts include Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, London, Seattle, Barcelona, and Melbourne, Australia. Currently, there are 35.2 thousand people working in Moffett Park. It's projected that by 2040, that number will reach 95,700. Next slide, please. What's next for Moffett Park? Right now, the city staff are compiling all of the comments they've received from the initial draft. In March, they will present a final draft of source, I suppose, to a number of commissions. Those include the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission, the Sustainability Commission, Housing and Human Services, and the Planning Commission. After that, they'll create a final plan to go before City Council for adoption. We expect that to happen sometime in spring 2023. Next slide, please. Thank you. The City of Sunnyvale has created an extensive website for Moffett Park. The site has the specific plan and all the environmental review documents and every presentation going back to 2020. I urge you to go see it because it's really, really quite extensive. It's MofettParkSP.com. That concludes my comments. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you so much, Gail, for that overview. It is a big, complex plan. It's been a long process. I want to talk to each of you about how long you've been involved in the process and how it's evolved, but I wanted to start with Kenneth. Kenneth SV at Home has been involved in the planning process on this for years. Before your time. And I know that since you've come on, this has been a major piece of work for you. Can you talk a little bit about where SV at Home is currently on the plan and maybe a little bit of reflection of where were we engaged in the beginning?
Yeah, sure. And just double checking, can you see me? Can you hear me well? Okay, awesome. So, our staff has changed over the years. But SV at Home has, like Mathew mentioned, has been engaged since the start of the planning process, just about just over a little bit over five years ago or so. And we've always been supportive to pursue the creation of complete mixed use and mixed income neighborhoods with the capacity to house Sunnyvale's growing workforce in Moffett Park. Our vision was and still is to also not only provide homes in Moffett Park, but also to allow workers to live near their jobs, which would significantly ease traffic, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and create access for everyone to live in a Moffett Park that is environmentally and economically sustainable. So over the years, we have commented on addressing Sunnyvale's jobs housing imbalance and encouraging significant housing and affordable housing development in Moffett Park to reach that balance. And we worked with the city to figure out ways for Moffett Park to maximize 100% deed restricted affordable housing and reach deeper levels of affordability. We also, we had been throughout, we've been coordinating with community partners like Livable Sunnyvale and Moffett Park's major landowners such as Google to try and keep Sunnyvale's housing needs in Moffett Park on track. And so, I mentioned city coordination. That's been a really key part of our work, working with staff, meeting with elected officials on the Moffett Park specific plan.
Great, thanks. Let's talk about Livable Sunnyvale. Agnes, Gail, let us know how long you've been involved and what the process has been like for engagement from you all.
Well, thanks first of all for having us today. Moffett Park specific plan was actually adopted in 2004. In 2019, the Sunnyvale City Council decided to authorize an update to the plan, and our committee was formed in 2020. The tenets that we have for Livable Sunnyvale are housing, sustainability, and transportation. So in 2020, when our committee was formed, we wanted to bring people in to talk about those three issues. We learned about sea level rise from San Francisco Estuary Institute and how that will be mitigated, because that of course is a concern given where Moffett Park sits. We also talked about transportation in 2022. The original committee chair for the Moffett Park committee decided to step down, and Gail took over as chair, and then I offered to assist. So that's how we got involved in this.
Great. Gail, has it been ups and downs? Has it been a
Yeah,
constructive process for you all?
I originally thought it's going to be Venice. And we're going to have gondolas there. So that's one of the reasons why we got the estuary people involved very quickly. And Mike Cerrone was there, a lot of people, because we were really Sue Cerrone, because we really thought, the flood risk. So we had the estuary people talking a lot about the abatement of flooding, water tables, you name it. We talked about it because we didn't want to build this if it's going to be flooded. So we spent a lot of time talking about the burns and the water. It was great. So yeah, I've been here, I think since it might have been 2020 when Justin was here. We also had Greenbelt working with us because Justin worked for Greenbelt. So we learned a lot about the environment before anything.
Yeah, it is clearly an environmentally sensitive area right on the bay. Just for context, y'all, this is by far the biggest plan in the South Bay. It dwarfs anything that San Jose has going, dwarfs big projects that are in the works in Santa Clara. So this is a major plan area. It's going to have a very long-term impact on the region, not just on Sunnyvale. And so the amount of work that was done on the front end to figure out how to address some of those core issues was super important and something we watched really carefully as well. So it's a big plan. We got a kind of a summary, Gail, Agnes, but I'm wondering what you're excited about, right? Now here we are, it's not over, but we're getting way closer to the finish line. Talk to us a little bit about what's exciting and what you've seen come together in the last couple of years.
Well, I think what excites me is the transformation that we're going to see from the current, as Gail described it, office park into an area where we will have much needed housing, where we can have that as a destination. It can be a showplace actually, and an example for not just our county, for various cities in our county, but also the state as a whole. I think what also excites me on a more kind of like a global look is that as community members, we have an opportunity to help shape Moffett Park. And I think it's important to remember that not just today, but remember that as we continue to, as Moffett Park continues to evolve until its anticipated completion in 2040. So I think community members have to remember that our voice is important and should be shared, regardless of whether you like Moffett Park or don't like Moffett Park. We really do need to voice our opinion. So I think that is really exciting to me, to be able to do that and to see this evolve in my lifetime.
Yeah, it really, you can feel the community input in the plan. Nothing is perfect, and we'll talk about that in a second, but there really is an effort to create integrated communities and mixed-use spaces and green spaces and retail that keeps that place dynamic, 18 hours a day instead of just during business hours. So I know that took a real push from the community to make sure that vision was realized, and cross our fingers it's going to pay off. Kenneth, can you talk a little bit about what you see that's exciting in the plan that's
Yeah,
right now?
Yeah, like Gail presented, currently Moffett Park is a very, car-centric, suburban style designed area, with a lot of office and R&D land uses right now. So we're generally excited about virtually working off of a sort of a clean slate. There's no residents living in, there's no people living in Moffett Park today. And so, and the vision to create an ecological innovation district is really exciting. So also the clean slate part of it is that, specific plans have a lot of flexibility, since it can include a special set of policies and development standards for a plan area. So we're excited about the opportunity to build up to 20,000 new homes in Moffett Park, along with an aspiration to build roughly 3,000 to 4,000 affordable homes. We think the tools that are being brought forth by the city into the plan make this many affordable homes to be built here as a great start, including the inclusionary housing program, the community benefits program, and their housing mitigation fee program, also known as basically it's the commercial linkage fee. So there's this huge opportunity to generate access for Sunnyvale residents of all incomes and backgrounds to live in Moffett Park and enjoy the vibrancy and biodiversity the plan promises, filled with new spaces for startups, retail, and walkable/rollable and transit accessible, a transit accessible community.
So rollable, I'm assuming, includes skateboards. Is that the
Skateboards, folks on wheelchairs, you name it.
all right? There is a real emphasis on connectivity and bicycle and pedestrian. I see we have somebody here from Spur, and there's been a lot of discussion about the idea of 15-minute communities where you can live, work, walk to what you need, and really create integrated spaces that are just environmentally more responsible than getting in your car to do everything you need to do every day. So a lot of people in one place. And so figuring out how to get that part of it right is going to be important. I know the transportation and traffic demand strategy is going to be really central and is going to have to be watched over time. Big plans, as Kenneth pointed out, have a lot of flexibility, but you create a structure, a set of rules, and a framework, and that's kind of where you start. And so that's what shapes the implementation. So this is really important work that's being done, which leads me to my next question is what are we missing? What do we feel like we haven't quite gotten right? And where are there more opportunities to improve the plan and ensure that we do have this successful implementation and evolution of the area? Who wants to go first?
I suppose I could go first.
Yeah, go for it.
I think what we have to be mindful of is the 20,000 new homes is wonderful because there's, as Gail has mentioned, we've talked about there are no homes in Moffett Park now. I think we also need to be mindful that as our city continues to grow, that we do not lose sight of the housing that we need, not just in Moffett Park, but elsewhere. I also think that it's important as the needs of the city change that we continue having an engagement with our city leadership, and that we have various committees formed and we have community members as stakeholders on these committees so that they can voice their concern for what's going on in their community and their neighborhood and add to the vibrancy of Moffett Park. I know that we're going to be talking about a call to action as well today. And we did share an email to the city with some specific asks that we would like to see in the plan as it moves forward, and also where some of you can look at just generally speaking, what we are concerned with and how we would like your support with signing on and attending committee meetings and that sort of thing. But again, as I said earlier, it's really important that we don't lose sight of Moffett Park. 13 years is a long time to continue with this process and make sure it really meets the changing needs of all of us.
Is that the target build out time frame? Is 13 years?
It's 2040. So if I did the math right, did I do the math
Wow.
right? I may not have had enough caffeine today, but if I did the math right, I think it should be finished in the next 13 years, right? Or 17 years, 17 years, yeah. Because 2040 is the date.
You put the plans in place and then you watch what happens, but I'm hearing your concern that there needs to be continued community participation in that process as it unfolds. So you feel like that's missing right now in the plan that's come forward, the kind of ongoing community engagement?
I think it remains to be seen, Matthew, how our voices, how the city implements our voices. So I think that remains to be seen. I think there are people that have spoken before council and spoken before the various commissions, which is great, and that have participated in the community meetings that the city has structured. But I think, what is that expression? The proof is in the pudding. I think that as we progress, which is why I really want to emphasize how we all need to keep on top of this. We have suggested potentially that the city sets up metrics so that we can actually look at the housing that's built, what was proposed, what's in queue to be built in regard to retail, what percentage of retail has been built, what's going on with the transportation, so that it's an easy way of community members to become engaged and say, no, wait a minute, we thought we were going to have XYZ, 2 years ago, and nothing's happening. What's going on? So again, I think it's incredibly important. It's like the gift that keeps on giving, for many, many years to come.
Okay, so there's a good foundation.
Mhm.
Sounds like everybody is watching now. What are the structures for that to continue? Gail, did you have anything you wanted to add to some of the concerns or areas that you think there's more work that needs to be done?
Yeah, I'll probably steal Kenneth's thunder. I apologize, but we absolutely need the missing piece is a shuttle between Moffett Park and Caltrain and the rest of the city. There has to be a way for people in southern Sunnyvale and middle Sunnyvale, like downtown, to get over there. This should not be just an area for the people that live there. There has to be a link between all of Sunnyvale to get to Moffett Park. And if I stole your thunder, I apologize, Kenneth.
Other than crossing the highway in your car, I'm assuming that's the sort of the punchline of your, yeah. Okay. Kenneth, what's missing?
And all good, Gail. No worries. With the Transportation Management Association, trying to address that, connectivity gap between Moffett Park and Caltrain, continued community stakeholder input is really crucial. And just as much as it's crucial in meeting the future transit needs of Moffett Park, same as with affordable housing and the community benefits program. So, we really appreciate Livable Sunnyvale really like having this, very community focused, scope on the implementation of Moffett Park. It's crucial. I can't stress that anymore. But the planning period for, like Agnes mentioned, it's 17. Well, they call it 20 years, but really, by 2040, it is 17. And it will have a max of 20,000 unit capacity with a 15% affordable housing unit target through its inclusionary program, and the 20% target through a community benefits program. So aside from a housing mitigation fee, which is again the commercial linkage program for Sunnyvale, the draft plan, you know, what we're concerned about is that it's lacking several available tools to reach these affordable housing objectives. So really, there's just 3 tools right now that are being used, and we think there should be a lot more available to use. And you know, I'm providing kind of the housing focus, you know, focus perspective here. So the plan is, you know, we believe the plan, SV at Home believes the plan is over dependent on its inclusionary program, which we think is risky, mostly due to, you know, a developer's option to fee out through council approval. And that is very important to note because the 15% affordable target is directly linked, or the city is really depending on the inclusionary program, which has a 15% affordable requirement, inclusionary requirement. But if, you know, developer has the option to fee out and not provide those units, then boom, already we're not meeting that 15%, you know, target or goal. So you also have concerns that the community benefit structure lacks important details, such as how much affordable housing is valued relative to other benefits, or whether it's committed to providing deeper levels of affordability. So we would like the specific plan to be set up in a bulletproof way through its policies and standards, or tools, as I'm calling it, to achieve the housing affordability it's targeting, and avoid watering down any of our housing goals and targets during the development agreement stage of projects. And to get there, we believe that there needs to be explicit requirement that a minimum of 15% of the residential units in the plan area be income restricted housing, affordable to low, very low, and extremely low income households, with a 20% goal. So with that, we think the plan needs to include explicit language acknowledging that expanding access to people of all incomes will require deed-restricted units integrated into both market rate and standalone 100% affordable units. You know, we think, you know, along with having all the available tools, you know, we can be very creative as well and generate additional resources to reduce costs and incentivize, you know, affordable housing development. We have several ideas that we presented to the city.
Kenneth, can we just
Yeah.
back up just a little bit?
Sure, yeah.
We've got a super smart group here. I'm looking at a lot of familiar faces, but we're also throwing a lot of stuff around. So if it's okay, let me just contextualize a little bit.
Sure.
The inclusionary housing program, the idea is that when you build market rate housing, you will set aside a portion of each of those market rate developments for housing that is affordable to people at lower incomes. However, the target is 15% in Sunnyvale, and that is 10% of low income people, which is a fair amount of money these days, and 5% for very low income households, which is also a fair amount of money. These are working households right now. And so the first concern is that there's always the option of paying a fee to the city instead of building those units. And there are state rules that require that there be alternatives. Cities have a fair amount of control in those negotiations about what the outcome is, but that's this concern, is that if we're shooting for 15% and it doesn't get built in the area, then we won't have it. The other piece, just to lay out, is that doesn't reach people with the greatest needs in the community, right? Even at half of the area median income, that's way more than a lot of working folks, even in Sunnyvale, have. And so the goal of getting deeper levels of affordability is something that we can't depend on the inclusionary ordinance to provide. And so part of the push is, can we have more creative tools to make sure we get deeper levels of affordability to reach more people, but that we're also confident that we're going to build affordable homes in that area. Kenneth has said, you know, if you plan a community without thinking about how it's going to be equitable and integrated, you will end up with a community that is neither equitable nor integrated. And this is the moment to make those decisions. Let me go to a couple of the questions that that we maybe haven't hit on. The first one is what happens, and Agnes kind of spoke to this, is that if we get halfway through and things aren't going as planned. That's something that we got in the chat. I think it's come up a lot in the public discussion. Is there a mechanism? What do we do? Anybody can jump in on that. I know you all have stuff to say. So
I just talked for a while and just gave a bunch of techno babble. So I'm happy to respond after my colleagues.
So are you looking to us, or are you looking for the audience to respond, Matthew?
no, I'm looking to you all as a panelist. A question that came from folks that are here is, what do we do in these kinds of situations if partway through it's just not going as planned? Is there anything in the plan that addresses that? Is there a strategy on the ground to come in and course correct, or what should we expect?
I think working with our city council does value the community's opinion, but then again, as I said, we've provided our opinions and we'll wait to see in the long term, in the next many years, how those are enacted or acted upon. But I think it's very important for the city to set up the metrics that I had mentioned so we can monitor what's happening. And I think it's important for community members to write letters to council members. It's important to show up at council meetings and commission meetings. I think it's also important to talk with your neighbors and get people together to voice your opinions about this. I don't think we can stop now. And I think this is hard work, and it's the long haul, and
Yeah.
we can't lose sight of it. So just constantly monitoring it and speaking your opinions or sharing your opinions, I think, is extremely important with letters and going to commission meetings and going to council meetings. That's what's really going to work.
Yeah, I just, from experience, city staff and elected officials don't love changing policies, halfway through, even if they're not working, even if the community is asking for them, and even if the local, the landowners and the developers are looking for more tools to achieve what they're trying to achieve as well. So it's important to keep an eye on that. There's a question.
Yeah, I think go ahead. I'll
So-
go after.
So I also think that Livable Sunnyvale as an organization has had some decent wins with constantly showing up and constantly voicing our opinion. So I think that does work. So I wouldn't, even though I had mentioned earlier, we'll have to wait and see and have that type of an attitude. We have historically seen that our opinions have changed thoughts and actions. So it's a good thing.
Kenneth, you got more to say, or can I go on to the next question?
Yeah, I do have more to say. Thanks. And so in the plan currently, there is an update process in the plan to review the progress of the plan every 5 years. And so that, that's why, I think it's essential to really monitor what's going on, like Agnes said, and really have clear metrics so that when it comes to, these 5-year, milestone points, what kind, could, the community and the city can figure out, okay, what kind of course corrections do we really need to make? So those potential updates every five years is going to be crucial.
Okay, let me go on to the next question. And I don't want to set folks up, but let me just contextualize. There are 3 major landowners in the area, and the center of the plan area is partially owned by Google and includes Google office space now. Does anybody know what percentage of the park is owned, the park area, Moffett Park area, is owned by Google?
Yeah, it's just about a third, I believe.
Yeah,
Okay.
sounds about right.
The other two major landowners in areas that are planned for this sort of integrated residential and commercial uses are, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Kenneth, Lockheed and J-Paul. And each of them have a much smaller piece, but there are the residential and the mixed use is spread throughout, and there are multiple owners. There's a question about, and this is a little bit into the weeds, I believe, but there was a question about there are some pieces of the plan that include, in this case, a diagonal green strip that's a kind of a critical part of the pedestrian and bicycle accessibility from, you know, connecting different pieces. There are challenges that there are smaller landowners that are not Google and not these other ones that might fit in and around these areas. Has there been any discussion of the way that the plan might be constraining? Because I know this has been a very attractive element, and I'm just wondering if there's been discussion about how some of these impact when there are smaller owners that might not be doing the same kind of big master plans like Google's probably doing with their site.
So this came up during one of the last community meetings that Michelle King, who is the principal planner for Moffett Park, was answering questions. And a couple of the smaller landowners did bring this up, and she encouraged them to contact her directly because they did want to work with them on this. I don't know what the outcome is going to be on their concerns, but that has been brought up. And again, it's in her lap to do something.
Okay. So these things look done, and it turns out there's ongoing discussion, which is good and bad. I'm just looking through the other questions that we've gotten. There's one about whether there's a set aside for particular groups that may have specific needs, in this case, developmentally disabled folks. I don't know that that's articulated in the plan. Is there anything about those types of priorities in the plan?
I don't, and Gail, you can correct me if I'm wrong in this. I do not remember this specifically being brought up, Mathew, as a question in any of the community meetings or when we had Michelle come to our committee last fall before we had our community-wide meetings. I don't recall this as an issue. It is, but I don't recall it being brought up.
Yeah.
How do we join the conversation and the planning?
Well, you know, the Transportation Management Association could be if we're able to successfully get stakeholder input in that process, that could be, a really important part to time to chime in. And part of the plan's prioritization for active mobility is to, they have like this upside down pyramid trying to show like the priorities of different kinds of mobilities. The top is folks, pedestrians and folks with disabilities. So at least in the mobility, the mobility sense, I know, this disability community is very far and wide reaching, but at least for mobility, that is one thing that they are doing in the plan.
If I may talk, I think one of the ways you need to do this is, I know Livable Sunnyvale, we talk to people that are in the affordable housing space. And I think one of the things we've been talking to them for at least 5 years is making sure that the I'm going to screw up these words. The developmentally challenged people need to be taken care of. I have a close friend who's got 2 children, and they're both in their 30s and they're both disabled. So we need to figure this, and this is a need in Sunnyvale because a lot of parents are taking care of their children that are developmentally disabled, and they're getting older and need a place to live. So one of the things you can do, and I hate to plug us, but join Livable Sunnyvale, and we talk to people all the time that are in the space of creating affordable housing. And that's really key to this. If that's, that's what they need. And the other thing is, and that is for the regular housing being built, that's not for developmentally disabled, that still has to meet what's it called? The American
ADA.
Disability. Yeah.
ADA.
Everything that's built has to meet those strict standards so that people in wheelchairs and walkers and that kind of stuff can live in these apartments that are being built.
I just want to
Thank-
add one last thing. Thanks, Gail. And, part of the tools that we are trying to recommend to the city to ensure the affordable housing targets are met is to have those deeper levels of affordability, which would include also permanent supportive housing. So, like they need to have the tools to ensure that everyone has access to live in Moffett Park. Just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Yeah,
And Mathew, will we have a little bit of time to talk about the call to action before we close out?
absolutely.
Can I add one thing, Kenneth? Can I add one thing? So Regina, I think that Gail's email and my email will be shared. And if you would like to send us your contact information, we can certainly talk about pursuing this topic, not just at Moffett, but throughout Sunnyvale as well.
Sounds good to me. Thank you, ladies
You're welcome.
and gentlemen.
Great. Let's go ahead to the call to action. What can we do about these concerns as the plan moves in the next couple of months?
Sure, and I could talk about it. And Agnes, Gail, please, feel free to chime in. So we have a letter campaign / petition for folks to sign. It's a letter that Livable Sunnyvale has created. It's a kind of shortened version of their more robust letter that they sent to the city. And so if you sign into this, we will, Livable Sunnyvale will put together everyone's signature and send it to Sunnyvale leaders. So someone should be dropping that link into the chat right now. And the other way to get involved is to, deepen your engagement beyond, the letter campaign. Just kind of like how Regina just, said, she wants to get involved. There's a way for you to, and actually, Regina, I recommend actually filling out this form. We created a Google form for folks to sign up to figure out what level of engagement you want to get involved with Livable Sunnyvale on the Moffett Park specific plan. So in there, you'll see, you can let Livable Sunnyvale what kind of engagement you want to get involved, whether it's meeting with electeds, writing your own comment letter, which Livable Sunnyvale can coach you on, or so really depends what you want to do. So that link should be there.
Showing up.
Showing up, yep.
Showing
Making
up.
making public comment at key public hearings like city council meeting, and then also you can if none of those are attractive to you, you can sign up for the city's listserv or their email sign up, and you can get updates on the plan itself. Like Gail mentioned, there's going to be a bunch of boards and commission meetings happening throughout March. The city is expecting to adopt the plan by the end of spring, or by spring. This very they just gave us general dates for now, so we're not sure exactly when. And also if you want to learn more, just just to get more information. You can also check out Livable Sunnyvale's full letter that they wrote to the city. And if you read that, it'll, what Agnes and Gail shared today will make a lot more sense too if you take a look at that. And that should be also be dropping in, a link should be dropped in the chat. So a lot of links, but we try to give it to you in the order of most important, most actionable to less actionable. So that's
We
it.
will also,
Oh,
Kenneth,
yes, thank you.
we will follow up with folks that are here, and we actually had a number of people register. It's the new hybrid Zoom world where folks know we're going to send a recording and the links out afterwards, and so we appreciate you being here. But we will send a follow-up with all of these links that have been dropped in the chat in the next couple of days, so they'll be more accessible. But it's real important to plug in, and it's important for Sunnyvale to plug in, but it's also important for all of us to plug in. This really is a regionally impacting plan area. As Agnes said, it's going to be a model in a lot of different ways going forward, both here in the Bay Area, but also statewide, and be part of a national push for these types of really thoughtful, ecologically responsible, mixed income, mixed use spaces. So we really would love to have everybody weigh in.
Yeah, can I just add one last thing?
Yeah.
If someone could drop the link to the letter campaign / petition again in the link in the chat, please, if you can, sign on to this. It's really quick, it's really fast, and you'll be part of this awesome movement that Livable Sunnyvale is part of, and it's going to directly impact their lives, their kids' lives, the future of Sunnyvale, and people living in it and moving in it. So this is really key. So please sign that. And also one last thing, in the follow-up email, we'll also share SV at Home's letter too. So just want to give ourselves a little bit of a plug too. All right, I'll let you take it away from here, Mathew. I will zip it from here.
No,
Thank you.
We're good. We're just right about where we need to be. So let me again thank Agnes and Gail and all the folks at Livable Sunnyvale that have been plugged into this for being great partners with SV at Home. Thank Kenneth for the amount of work and effort that's going into this and making sure that we're coordinating with local folks when we do our work, and that we continue to focus on equitable access to these new spaces. So I'm going to give you a membership pitch. At SV at Home, we believe everyone deserves a safe, stable home. If you do too, we invite you to join us as a member. When you join SV at Home, we can leverage our resources, magnify our voices, and advance strategic collaborative solutions to California's affordable housing crisis that meet our local and regional needs. Your membership helps support our work, including programs like this, Policy in Action, which we do every month. And you can find the link to join us in the chat. I don't know if it went in yet, but it will go